Hi everybody and welcome back to the Watercolour channel. Today I'm going to be doing something of our national heritage, and that is I'm going to be doing a picture of Stonehenge. So let's roll that intro. Let's see how we get on. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, I'm doing a lovely picture of Stonehenge for you this week. Now the reference is not my own, it's actually found on a free site called pixabay.com. Nip on over there, do a search for Stonehenge. In amongst all the pictures that come up of that subject, you will find this picture to download for free and have a go at this project yourself. Now that means of course there's no picture for you to download off of my Patreon this week, so not to worry about that. Just literally go over to pixabay.com and make that search. In the meantime, let's crack on. Let's see how we get on with this beautiful painting of Stonehenge. Okay everyone, so let's get going with Stonehenge. Gotta say, I've wanted to paint this picture for such a long time. I didn't actually have a decent picture of it. Every time I've been there, it's been quite cloudy, raining, drizzly, cold, and certainly not conducive to taking any decent shots. So this one, as I said earlier, has been found on Pixabay, so you can download it there and have a go at this one yourself. And you know, good luck with it. It's a great image. And as I say, I've wanted to do it for a long time. Now what I'm doing is I plotted one of the capping stones and I looked at the whole drawing very carefully, or at least the image, to see how far and where I wanted to start so that I could get the whole thing plotted across the whole piece of paper. Now the thing is that you can do that by measuring and checking the dimensions on the photo that you're using and also those capping stones that you've already drawn. See what parts line up with other parts. See where lines dissect and line up, and they will give you visual clues as you travel across the paper from left to right. And that's really all I did. I just checked, double checked, moved very slowly and made sure that when I did it, it was going to be in the right place. So I'm just going to carry on with the drawing a little bit more, and then we can carry on and get started with the sky and the painting. You'll also notice that I've actually put in quite a bit of effort to try and make sure that there's enough of the sort of ground around each side on the left and the right hand side of the paper. I didn't want to make these things come right up to the edge of the paper and look unbalanced, and also to create a situation where it's just too close to a mount if I wanted to sell it. Now the brushes I'm using are Rosemary & Company as always. Don't forget you can use my name, Paul Apps, Unbroken and in caps on an affiliate link, and to put any orders into Rosemary & Company, but I really do recommend them. I've used a dagger and some rounds and a small squirrel mop. First things first though, I'm going to wet the paper of the sky just with some clean water, and I'm being very careful. I don't want to touch any of the capping stones or any of the structure of the Stonehenge itself. I'm putting in quite a moody sky, a little bit of neutral tint, a little bit of indigo, just to let that spread. Now the consistency is a little bit like milk, I suppose would be the best way to describe it. Not quite thick cream or anything like that. I'm using a lot more indigo now, and I'm going to vary the marks. Still some neutral tint going in, but I'm varying the marks of the sky, leaving little white areas. They suggest clouds, and because of the water that I put down to begin with, it is actually spreading quite nicely in the paper itself. The paper is a good quality paper. It's a 300-pound rough texture, so it gives you a lovely setup to do any dry brush marks with if you want to. I've added in some yellow ochre and also some cobalt blue into that sky mix as well, but I haven't been too delicate about filling everything in. It's just light areas, dark areas, white paper showing through as and when they are, but it creates a wonderful looking sky, quite moody and quite threatening. but not over the top. Now I'm really careful here that I'm going around all the spaces of the capping stones. I don't want to come and infringe on any of those drawing marks that I've made, and so I want to get this sky finish brought down to the sort of eye level or my horizon level, which is right about down, well, just at the bottom of those stones actually, because we're on a bit of a hill there, and my eye level is almost at the foot level of where they are. So I've dried it all off now and made sure that everything is ready to go, and I can start actually painting the Stonehenge, or the henge as people would, I think, call it. Start painting the henge itself. Now I'm coming in very, very light. I'm using a lot of yellow in value of Aureolin and a little bit of translucent orange, and I'm putting a very weak teaish type of color mix onto the stones. This is to warm the whole thing up. I'm going to come in with darker, cooler values of shade later on, but what I do want is to have these lighter, warmer accents before I go any further. I did darken it a little bit and come back with some of the shady areas right there and one or two other places, just to give a suggestion that there is a bit of a darker, warm value. But once this is done, I'm now going to dry it up and before I carry on. So everything is being dried in layers. Now the first layer was the sky. It was dried. And then the second layer was the foundation layer on the henge itself. What I'm doing now is I'm going to put the foreground in before I go back to finish the painting on the stones themselves. So I'm mixing up a little bit of the green. The green is a bit of the phthalo green mixed with a bit of yellow ochre and other colors, earth tones such as raw sienna, just to shift the green off of that very, very violent green that phthalo green gives you. I'm being careful that I'm working around the bottom shape. So as I did the sky at the top and worked around those, I am doing the same with the bottom, and I'm isolating all those stones now. So once the foreground's done and once the sky, as we know, has already been done, then I've isolated the stones ready to start with phase 2 on their layering. So everything is dried between. I've added a little bit more of the siennas and earth tones into those greens to vary the color as we come forward. But I've dried it, and now I'm going back to the stones, and this is where the bulk of the rest of the painting is going to hang out. We're going to get in there, we're going to start bringing up the cooler but darker values that create the shadows and therefore the contrast of these stones. So think a little bit more about warm and cool, think about contrast, light and dark, and that will help you when you come to mix your colors. And I am really using some indigo, and if you haven't got indigo, you can probably use things like Prussian blue, and the Prussian blue you can mix down with maybe some of the siennas, some of the duller reds, just to shift it from the pure yellow. But at the same time, I'm using indigo and I'm putting it on, and you can see here, damp brush, no paint in it, and I'm just feathering out some of those darks. So I don't want them to be a big strong cast shadow, unless of course there is a very definite shape to the stones. Now the first one, you can see there's quite a definite face shape and a side shape, but the ones that I just did then and put the little bit of water to it, it's a very, very soft shape. So the transition between the light and the dark face is somewhat different to the first one. And that's all I'm doing, is just checking. I'm looking, I'm reading the photograph as I go. I'm putting little taps in, almost little bits of what people term as calligraphy. It's a little bit like just drawing with a brush and just checking the marks that I'm making and making sure as close as I can that they really relate to those that are in the photograph. Okay, so what I'm doing now is linking areas of shadow. Now the shadow is a second pass. The first pass was all the warm colors, the light colors. Now we're putting a somewhat darker color on, but it is cooler. And by linking areas of rock, so one rock may be joined to another one visually because of the way that I've applied this second layer of color. It is cooler too, and it creates an immediate 3-dimension. Now I'm going to go all the way through all of these rocks doing this very same thing. Areas will become connected and connected with that same color, but and whenever you're doing this, whenever you're layering a painting, you are doing less brushwork than you first did, but every one of the brush marks that you put on is a lot more considered. So you're putting less information on each successive pass, but it's even more considered. So it can take an awful length of time to get everything about right, but it's not a race. This is a marathon. No painting is a race. You finish it when you're finished doing it and not before. And so you can see here that I'm picking my way across the stones, and I'm looking at the shapes, and I'm seeing where those colors can be applied and then linked to other stones, so that it creates a lovely uniform connection, and it actually works as a great harmony across any painting. And once this layer has been finished, once it's dried off and done, then I can come back in, as I will do, with the next color, which is going to be slightly darker. One little point about all of these is that every time I do a pass, I make sure that there is a little bit more paint to water relate. I can never say it. The ratio between paint and water becomes a little bit thicker of paint, because I don't want any back runs. If the painting is slightly damp in any area, if I missed something or I haven't dried it thoroughly enough, it could, if I put too much water to the paint mix, I could end up with a back run and a cauliflower. Really don't want that to happen. Now I'm coming in with a very, very strong dark mix, and this is really going to punch out all of those lights and darks. It's going to give my Stonehenge its realism. It's 3 dimensions, and I'm looking, and as you can see, there is a lot less painting going on, but every mark that I make is so much more considered. I'm checking where I need to put little taps of dark, where there are little cracks, little fissures in the rocks themselves. Everything I'm doing now is bringing the I's and the T's to the painting. It's making sure that the fine detail is now being applied, but so much more carefully. You saw at the beginning how pretty vibrant and how fast you can put the color down, and if you're confident, you can put that color down very, very quickly, and you can then move on once it's dried to the next stage. Then the second layer, of course, we put in that lovely warm tone, and that gives the sunshine to all those stones as they stand there. And also they add the complementary to the sky behind them. The sky is very cool, very grey, and those stones in the sunlight, I've given them that lovely warm orangey yellow colour. It's very, very faint, but it does work as a complementary, and it makes everything stand off. And that next layer, as I said, was the cool layer. It's the first of the shadow marks. But look how pale that's gone compared to what I'm doing now. That second layer has dried off, and it has sort of just gone much paler, as it all does, as all watercolor does. It fades to a lighter color as it dries off. And this color that I'm putting on now will appear much, much lighter than it actually does right now. So you must be prepared for that. And be prepared to go back in if you need to sort of add to any of those statements that you've put in. But I think we're doing very, very well. And the painting is slowing up. Lots more consideration, lots more work going in. I'm looking at the photograph, I'm looking at the painting, I'm seeing where I need to put this color and that color, wherever it has to go, but I'm still looking at ways of linking up some of these colors. They're not all sort of just one stripe, one mark, one tap. Sometimes you just take it all the way across and link it to yet another stone, and it just helps create the harmony in the whole painting. So I'm just going to carry on now and consider every mark that I'm putting in, try and define the stones as they appear in the photograph, make lots of little quick decisions, mental notes, little taps here. Maybe I'll warm some up, cool some down, and as I'm doing here, just add a little bit more water to soften some of that dark so it comes down. And some of these stones have got a great deal of staining on them, other marks, and that gives them the character, and that's what I'm trying to recreate in all of these. I've also got to make sure that the one behind here is literally behind and doesn't appear to be sitting on or amongst the stones on this side. So there is a little degree of aerial perspective to happen, but I'm just going to let you watch the rest of this go through a little bit more, and you can see what I'm doing by just literally studying the photo and adding the color as I feel it needs to be added. Even though I've put that darker mark on, I'm still coming over it with an even darker mark, and I can see that in the stones that there is a lot of cracks, a lot of fissures, especially on this right hand side. I can see different areas of cracks, and they need to be defined. I'm putting a little lighter color in, or at least the same color but with a little bit more water in it again. I've done it on the last two, and I'm doing it on these final few as well. These are capped together. They are 3 in line, 3 large stones, and there are 2 capping stones across the 3 big giant stones. But I need to try and make sure that I get them. And of course what's happening on these ones is the foreshortened angle is much greater, and as they're going away, so they're also in a lot more shadow on that side than the left hand side, where the sun is coming in pretty much from my left hand shoulder, maybe a little round a bit, but you know, you get the idea. You've got that lovely light one side, dark the other, and it does give you a direction of sunlight. Popping back over now, and really it's down to I's and T's. I am coming towards the end of the painting, and I just wanted to make sure that all the little bits, and I've gone from a bigger brush, I've gone to a medium round brush, and I'm now looking and using my favorite rigger for the job, just to finish this off. And it's where you put those very fine dark lines in where you need them, those little extra nuggets of information that make this painting come to life and, you know, sort of stand up as a painting. And yeah, I have had a lot of fun doing it, and I always do, and I always enjoy sort of, I don't think it's pitting myself against it, but the challenge and rising to the challenge to recreate something that I can either see in life or indeed through this photographic reference, and do my utmost to make sure that I create something that is as close to the real thing, or as close to what I'm looking at as possible. So enjoy the remainder of this painting as I just actually hone in on all those subtle little bits of detail that need to be added. These ones at the back here I've got to be really careful about, because I get that mark too dark at this point. They're going to look as though they're standing in the middle of the 2 stones, not on the other side of the henge or the circle of stones itself. So you do need to be a bit careful about how you add colour to things that are near and how far. The aerial perspective, you've got to get that tone right. It's the value of the color that you apply. You're still using the same colors, but by adding a bit more water to that one, it sort of makes the mix a little bit weaker, a little bit more tea, as it were. And when it dries darker than the background but lighter than the stones in front. I'm adding that extra bit of dark on these 3 in the shadow as well. They do need to be in a lot more shade, and therefore the real crevices and darks within the fissures need to be that much darker as well. But don't forget, the ones on the left hand side in the strong light, those darks are in high contrast, and they are just as effective when you get them right as well. So my own way of doing things in the last few minutes of any painting is really examine all that information that you see before you in the photo. Just go over everything you've done so far. Does it read right? Does the aerial perspective look right? Is there a sufficient amount of light to dark across the board from white to black? And also, does the information tally, does the bits of detail, the I's and the T's work out as you want them to? But as I come to the end of this, I'm just underpinning the bases of the stones, those little subtle bits of dark detail at their feet, you know, the shadows, there's a little shadow going across there between those two, created by the one capping stone. And that's the only one you really see, because that one is face onto you. The other ones show very little areas of shade and shadow, a couple of little bits around that one, and we're pretty much done. All I've got to do now is sign this picture. Wish each and every one of you happy painting, stay safe and all of that as usual. Catch you in the next one. Bye bye. Okay everybody, well that's done. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I had a heap of fun painting it for you, and don't forget the reference for it is going to be found on pixabay.com, so nip on over there and check it out. If you have enjoyed this, then don't forget, give it a massive thumbs up. That really does help. And also, if you're not a subscriber, it doesn't cost you anything to do that. Just subscribe, hit that icon and click the bell icon. It tells you when I upload new videos. But you are giving the channel a massive boost. It tells the YouTube algorithm that I'm worth looking at, and it pushes the video out to a lot more people. So you really would be doing me a great favor. But above all, if you've enjoyed it, then also add comments. If there's something that you'd like me to cover in future videos, that's a great place for you to put them down, put them down, put it down, put it down, put the comment down, put it down. Yeah. Add a comment. Add a comment, and just let me know any ideas that you've got, and I'll try and do those in future videos. So I'm just going to say enjoy, happy painting, stay safe wherever you are, take care. I'll catch you in the next video. All the best for now. Bye bye. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the watercolor painting channel. Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel, the watercolor painting channel. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the watercolor painting channel. Future. Don't forget the reference for the reference. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the just went blank. Just went blank. Heritage, and that is Stonehenge. So let's get on with it then. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my watercolor channel. Yeah, that was good, but then I stopped, so not so good. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the watercolor channel. The watercolor channel. The watercolor channel. The watercolor channel. Hi everybody, welcome back. As I said at the start, I wanted to do a lovely little picture of now, don't forget also, it will not be on my Patreon this week, so don't go looking. Well, you can go looking, because you might want to get involved. Start again. There will be no reference on my Patreon for you to download this week, so literally over to Pixabay and do that search. Now I am going to what am I going to do? I'm going to paint.